The Germans, the Germans believed that the suffering of the German people, an unbearable suffering, and here I'm going to do a little history with you again because it's crucial. The Germans believed their suffering had been caused and perpetrated by the Jews in the world. This is an old anti-Semitic idea. It exists in Europe for a long time before there were Nazis. So they didn't invent this. They picked it up and developed it. What were the real sufferings that they blamed on the Jews? Let's go through it. Germany was the up-and-coming competitor of Great Britain to replace the British Empire with a German empire. The only other competitor in the second half of the 19th century to the rise of Germany as Britain's great competitor was the United States. And the Germans expected to inherit the British Empire, to be the great replacement. You can't understand the second half of the 19th century with the rise of German history, especially their politics, their unification of many small countries into one large Germany, the achievement of their leader, Otto von Bismarck, and all that represented. They had hopes of being the great intellectual, cultural, military power of Europe, a German empire. Reich in German. German is my first language. That was destroyed in World War I. Their leader, the Kaiser, abdicated. It was the end of the empire, literally the end of their leader, the end of their power. Their colonies, which were numerous, were taken away from them as part of the settlement of World War I. An immense reparations bill was imposed on Germany by the victors of World War I, particularly France and Britain, with the approval of the United States. Germany was destroyed, first in war and then in peace. There was no way they could recover from the boom they had achieved in the second half of the 19th century, the boom that they were in the middle of when they lost the war. And then the reparations meant they couldn't recover from the war because they had to deliver wealth from Germany to the victorious countries, France and England. So bad were the conditions that in 1923, Germany goes through another catastrophe. For those who don't know the history, we had one of the worst inflations in human history in Germany in 1923 and 5, 23 and 4, or 22 and 23. In a period of a year and a half, German families, among the most frugal in the world, who had saved over generations Deutschmark and put them aside in a bank account or in a box. I know these things because I'm talking about my own family. They were wiped out. 25 years of savings in a week became the amount of money you needed to buy a quarter pound of butter. They were gone. Their savings, what they hoped to rely on through the difficulties of a lost world war and the reparations, were taken from them. And then in 1929, 4 years later, the global world depression begins, October 1929. And the German economy is smashed again. Well, if you put any population through that many catastrophes, World War I ends in 1918, and the Great Depression hits them in 1929. That's 10 years of a lost world war, of a reparations bill, of the worst inflation in modern history, and the worst depression capitalism had ever seen. It was too much. You know how we know it was too much? Because in 1932 and 3, the German people turned to their new leader, Adolf Hitler. So it isn't surprising, and it should not shock anyone to learn that in that crazy time, they would also find meaning in Hitler's idea, borrowed from the past, that the Jews were the ones who had made all this happen. So the Germans were taught to explain all of their suffering as the behavior of Jews who could and who would do it to them again. This trained the German people to see it's either us or them. You have to have that mentality to then deliberately take the property away from the Jews, take their jobs away from their Jews, take their homes away from their Jews, stick them in a jail, stick them in a concentration camp, and then finally mass murder them. What we are watching, and don't miss the historical irony, is the Jews, at least that part of them that became Zionists and went to Palestine, finding themselves in the same situation under new conditions. Germans are no longer relevant. It's Palestinians. They're going to take us over. They are going to expel us. They are going to try to kill us. And we have no choice. To get rid of them is what we have to do. Yeah, at first, just Hamas. But Hamas is the organization supported and sustained by Palestinians, probably more so now than ever. And so they're stuck. You know what ended it in Germany with the Jews? Outside intervention. The war, when Russia and the United States together stopped the German system from continuing. Something outside probably has to intervene in Israel and Palestine, or else they are going to kill each other. And I'm being euphemistic because the Palestinians don't have the means any more than the Jews had the means in Germany. One side has the means. Both sides have the fear. We know the result. We're watching it.